Hey, 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 it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today's guest is Rhea Claire of Rhea Claire Lifestyle. She has launched, in the pandemic, basically, her own line of planners, like an awesome paper planner that you can use to chart your goals, your daily activities, even your finances. I love it. It's really cool. The best part is that it's just a side hustle. She's a young designer working here in Toronto. She works for a design firm, and in her free time, she has started a line of products, which I think is so inspirational. It just goes to show that you can do the extra thing, the extra passion that you want, even while working full time. So I think you guys are going to like this. We have a great conversation about how she uses her planner. I talk about how I intend to use it. I've got her planner. I'm going to use it this year, but how I've used planners in the past, really as that support for your goal setting and helping to keep you on track. She talks a little bit about financial literacy and her passion around that and saving money and tracking your expenses and your finances, surprisingly, which is it's kind of a neat twist to your basic lifestyle planner. So I hope you guys enjoy this. If you have a paper planner, maybe you'll get some takeaways. If you don't have one, maybe it'll just give you some new ideas and aha moments on goal setting, because it's still early in the year and there's still lots of opportunity to set your intention and map out your goals for the year ahead. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode with Rhea.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Hello, Rhea. I'm excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
I would love, as with all of our guests, I would love for you to maybe just share with the audience in your own words who you are and, just give us a little Coles Notes vision into your life and who you are.
So my name is Rhea. I have a background in interior design, which is how actually you and I have come to meet. And I feel like I've just always had this entrepreneurial spirit kind of like throughout my whole life. When I was a kid, my grandmother, she would always walk around with like these planners and these big books and everything. And when I was little, I used to, grab her books and walk around the house and pretend to be a little businesswoman. And so I think that kind of what started, me being into this industry and everything. But with the planners, how like that came to be and everything. I was just looking for a planner one day and I couldn't find anything online really. So
nobody knows what you're talking about. You got to give them the full intro.
The full intro.
Yeah. Like what are you talking about? You have a business.
I have a business. Yeah. Yes. So I started Rhea Claire Lifestyle. So I started a business and so we were in lockdown and this was the beginning of 2021 over the Christmas break. And we were in lockdown. We couldn't go anywhere. And so I was looking for a planner online and I couldn't find any online that were, minimal or aesthetic or basically just like functional, everything I needed all in one. Everything was very like pink and girly and flowery. And I just wanted something that was sophisticated and sleek and something that I wouldn't be embarrassed pulling out of my bag in an office. So I was scouring the internet. I couldn't find anything. And so that's when I used my interior design background and my entrepreneurial spirit to design a planner. And then Rhea Claire Lifestyle became a brand and a vision. And so every day now I'm working to bring that vision to life.
I love that. And what you didn't fully get into, but what I think is really interesting and cool is that you have a day job too. Like this is not your full-time gig. This is your side hustle, which I think is really cool. It's a great inspiration for other designers or other entrepreneurs who are doing one thing and they still want to kind of tackle something else that's maybe outside a regular day job or in addition to their existing business. And it's totally possible. And that's why I love hearing this, because you work for an interior designer here in Toronto. And I imagine you work full time, right?
Yes. Yeah, I work full time.
Yeah. So I don't know how you do it, but I think it's really cool that you've launched this line of planners, and I have mine right here. I'm going to use it for 2022. And I love that it, like you said, can I actually tell you my favorite feature of this planner?
Yeah.
Is that it's spiral bound.
Yes.
So I've been using the Passion Planner for years, and I do love the Passion Planner because it's great with goal setting, but it's a little too big. It's either too small or too big. And so I like the size of yours is perfect, and it's not spiral bound. So I love that you can like turn the whole thing over to work on it. And just kind of set it aside on your desk and it can be in front of you, as opposed to having to find something to hold the book down.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The coil, it was definitely a very important feature I wanted to have, especially because I'm left-handed. And so being a lefty and writing in a book, it's really hard. So
that is so interesting. I would never have thought of that.
Yeah. So the coil, I mean, it works for anyone, right? Whether you're left-handed or right-handed, but I find that it's easier for us lefties.
That's so cool. Any lefties listening are probably like, hallelujah. Yeah. Okay. So why don't we dive in a little bit more to this idea of like, why a planner? Like you said, you were looking for a planner, like you could have developed anything to sell. Why specifically, like, why does that matter to you?
I think the planners really mattered to me just because, personally, I'm such an A-type personality. Like I love being planned. My friends and I went to New York a couple Christmases ago, and I was the one that, got everyone together. We spent a couple hours at Indigo on the floor looking at the map of New York. And I was just like, this day we're doing this, and this day we're doing this, and this is the plan, and blah, blah, blah. And so, that's always just been my personality. And I've always I just really enjoy having a book that I can write stuff down in. I can write my notes in, just a place where I can keep my brain, but that a place where I can see it visually. Right. And so I think that's definitely why I chose planners, but then also because I was looking for one and I couldn't find any that I really liked. And so I was like, there's no minimal functional planner really out there that's affordable. I mean, I've seen ones that are $120, and I'm like, that's a little bit crazy for a planner. So I decided to make one. And that's the story.
That's so crazy. So I love that you are the planner and your friends. That's really cool. If you maybe have heard me on the podcast mention or even on Instagram mention over the last few years, like I always love using a paper. I like to call them old school planners because let's be honest, a lot of people just do everything digitally.
Yeah.
Right. And they will just enter, you've got your Google Calendar. I'm just going to use Google Calendar or take some notes or have a journal. And for me, I can tell you what I love is that for goal setting, I like having it in one place. And so initially when I would use a planner, and I'm curious how you use yours, but initially what I would do is I would duplicate everything. So everything's in Google, because I run a business, right? And so everyone's making meetings with me, and my Google Calendar is like the Bible of my every week. But then what I was initially doing is I would have my planner, and I would sit down on a Sunday and I would open it up and I'd be like, okay, what are the events happening this week? And I would like write them all in, and with the times, some of those planners have like the time associated, and I'd be writing in the time. I would highlight like all similar events in certain colors because I love using color coding. And then what would happen is my calendar would change, because as I'm sure now in your, now that you're working in the interior design world for a designer, like some meetings can move, or you're drawn to site and your contractor needs to meet Wednesday instead of Tuesday to meet the plumber, or I don't know, there's a million things that can change in your calendar on a weekly basis. And so I was finding that I needed whiteout. So then I would buy whiteout. I was like whiting things out in the planner, and it just was a make work project to an extent. Yeah. So the way that I use a planner, and I'm so excited to use yours this year because I don't have another one. I didn't buy any other ones. I got this one through the collective. I'm so excited to use it, and is not for the everyday. Because the world for me is so digital, it doesn't make sense to duplicate the amount of work, right? I'm all about efficiency. And so for me, it's more about setting my goals for the year and the milestones and the tasks that I want to do that are associated with that goal. They live in the planner, so that in a way it keeps me on track and it separates the two. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way, but I'm super curious how, like, you designed your planner in such a way, and I would love to hear how you kind of intended and how do you use it. I mean, does what I say even resonate with you, or do you use it totally differently?
No, I mean, I totally get it. I've actually had people reach out to me and tell me you should make a digital copy of this so that people could, use this on their computers and their iPads and everything. And I totally get that. And one day I will do that. But the way that I use the planner and the intention behind it was kind of like, so for me personally, because I don't, run an interior design business and I am nowhere near as busy as you are in terms of meetings and, all those things that change. But I have noticed though, in, personal life, like plans with friends change or family events change and things like that. So I have run into that problem, although a friend suggested buying pens that are erasable. And so that's kind of changed the whole game of things. But the way that I use my planner is definitely for, goal setting and just keeping track of everything that's going on in my life. So I will, I'll write down meetings here and there. I use the calendar spread as kind of like an overall, keep track of paydays, when certain bills come out and make sure that those are paid. Any kind of like self deadlines that I've set in terms of, for me, for example, the kinds of like meetings that I go through are meeting with suppliers to get samples for new products that I've designed, or, planning with a friend to go sit down at a coffee shop and work on some ideas, or, she'll do her work and I'll do my work and we'll do it together. So that's what usually ends up in my planner. But I definitely just wanted to incorporate like everything that you would need in the gist of things on a daily basis. So that's why I have, the calendar spread so you can see the whole month at once. And then I've got the weekly spread so you can go into more detail about anything. There's a ton of notes and blank space, which I think is super, super important, because when you're confined to certain parts of a planner, like I've seen some planners where they just give you a little space to write some notes and then a couple lines. So now you're kind of confined to only use that space for, writing words down. And so what I wanted to do was create like kind of like a blank canvas, but a guided blank canvas, so that anyone could take this planner and kind of use it to their original unique way of using planners.
Yeah, I like that, because like as I'm looking through it, I can see how you can really personalize it to use it however you want. I like that you have the week spread across the 2 pages, but it doesn't have times or lines. So I think because that gives it flexibility so that I can focus on goals. I could even do a little mind map on a Wednesday. I could, maybe in bigger letters, write something that's more important to me on the Wednesday, and everything else is small. And I think for creatives too, it's nice to have creativity, but within the confines of like that format that you have. I think it's great. I think that it's, and I love that you have, sorry, I'm jumping ahead, the part to be grateful. So why did you include that? And like, talk to me about, you have things I'm grateful for. What can I improve on? How have I made progress towards my goals? And what have I learned? And that's the monthly recap. And I love that it's general enough, but specific enough. Does that make sense? Because I feel like in my last planner, I felt like the end of month recap was so much work that I never did it. And then I don't like looking and I have all these blank pages and I'm like, oh man, I never did it, but I don't have the time. So tell me why, like, to me, it tells me that you're a little bit into personal development. Oh yeah. If you're focusing on gratitude. So talk to me about that and where that comes from.
So the gratitude part comes from, so there's, all of these studies that are new and emerging. And of course, there's older studies that you can find out there too. But I find that in our generation, especially with, COVID being such a hard thing for people to go through with, like the economy crashing and people losing their jobs and in and out of financial stability and all that stuff. They say that, finding gratefulness and being grateful is a way to be happy instead of constantly comparing yourself to other people in their lives. And, not just with COVID, but even with social media, it's so hard to, wake up and go on social media and just see like these beautiful people having lunch in Paris at the Eiffel Tower. And you're like here and you have to get up and you have to go to work and it's cold outside and it sucks. So I definitely think that, if people just kind of like take a moment and find what they're grateful for and really count their blessings and realize that, we have a good life and we should be grateful for those kinds, like these little things. And yeah, so once we start to really open our eyes to the basic things that we take for granted, that's when we can, start becoming happier and start just building a better life for ourselves. So it starts with gratefulness.
Yeah, I love that. And I always say like, it's the small moments of gratitude. And this is something that I learned from Rachel Hollis is like, don't have to think about like, I'm grateful for my family and I'm grateful for my children's school. Like those are sometimes such big things that it's hard to have that feeling. Like, yes, of course you're grateful, but what is the little thing that brings you joy? And so like, I know it's no secret that I write down 5 things I'm grateful for every day. And I was always trying to do it in the morning, but my morning routine is just not happening. So now I do it before bed. And that way I actually do it. And I was sitting in bed last night doing my gratitude and I was reaching, like, I was like, what? I was trying to think like the day didn't feel like that special. I mean, I had we were successful. We had some great meetings and like my kids were great, but I didn't even put them to bed that night because it was date night. And I looked over my nightstand and I looked at my cell phone. I was like, oh yeah, I love my new cell phone case. And I wrote down, I am grateful for my new cell phone case. But because I could actually I'm like, yes, like it gave me a little bit of happiness. And it sounds like the silliest thing, but then you're in this vibrant, like this, what do you call it? Like you're in this vibration of happy emotion, right? And like gratitude. And then the more you start to look for it, the more you see it. Do you find that like in the day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's almost like training your mind to be a glass is half full mind, right? Some of us are naturally like that, but
yeah. I was just reading a book called The 5 a.m. Club, and I forget what the term is called, but in the book they were talking about, when you start looking for things like opportunities or happiness, you start seeing it more often. And so your brain kind of subconsciously starts pushing yourself towards positivity and happiness. And it's really important.
Absolutely. Yeah. That book is on my list, but I'm not ready for the morning yet. So I'm holding off. I got to master my evening routine and get my kids to sleep through the night. And then maybe I can wake up early.
Yeah.
Are you an early riser?
I want to say, okay, so because, I'm a creative and I've, loved art and all things design since I was a little kid, I always thought that I'm a night person. I'm a night owl. I will stay up until 3-4 o'clock in the morning, like designing, drawing, doing everything. And then I detested mornings. I was like, I'm not waking up before 11 o'clock. It's not happening. But ever since reading that book, The 5 a.m. Club, it's changed my life, completely changed my life. So I have a whole morning routine now. I do the gratitude in the morning and the night. I use my planner and I write down my gratitude. And yeah, I use my planner as like my brain dump for all of that.
So I'm curious, did you read The 5 a.m. Club before you launched the planners?
No, I actually bought it in November and I just finished it a week ago.
Okay. So you did the paper book of that? Paper copy, sorry?
Yeah, I like paper copy books.
Yeah. Well, obviously you wouldn't have developed a paper planner if you didn't.
Exactly. But I also envision my future house and I have a beautiful arched bookcase and it's from all of the books that I've collected over the years. So yeah, building my collection.
So speaking of vision, do you do a vision board then?
Of course.
Look at you. You're so good.
My computer background is my vision board for 2022.
Oh my God, that is so freaking brilliant. Why did I think of that? That's so smart.
Yeah, it's amazing. I just make this whole collage of everything I, manifest my year to be, and then I set it as my background. That way I see it every day. So there's no way that I can not manifest. Yeah.
Oh my, I just have a picture of a pretty space that we designed, but I like that better. So okay, let's just talk about that for a second, because I'm going to do this. So do you then, you have pinned images and whatever, do you just take those images, like screenshot them or whatever, and put them into what, like a Google slide, and then you save it as an image? Like, I need to know the specifics.
Well, okay, so I'm a MacBook user. I love Apple products. I literally just use Pages. Like, I use Pages for everything. So I just screenshot from Pinterest, throw it into Pages, and then I just export it as an image and set it as my background.
There you go, guys. Everyone has now been told exactly how to do this. I hope everyone listening takes a page out of Rhea's book and does this, literally. Because I usually do paper ones and I'll put them up. But the reality is, like, we spend so much time at our computer that why not have it as the first thing you see? Or, like, when you close at lunchtime, if you close all your tabs, or before at the end of the day, like, that is brilliant. I love it. Thanks. Oh my God, I'm totally doing that. I don't have any free time today, but maybe over the weekend.
It's really fun.
Amazing.
It's really fun.
So, okay, so we're like, I don't know. I want to hear a little bit more about this goal setting, because I know in your planner, because we're still relatively close to the beginning of the year. At the time this is going to air, it's still early. We're still in the first quarter, and so, I feel like if you haven't set your goals first day of January, like, don't sweat it. It's okay. You can set them anytime. I mean, if you don't decide to start setting goals until June, that's fine. And your planner is all about, you can put in the date, right? So it's like year and month agnostic. Is that a thing? Can you say that? Right? Like, it doesn't, I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong word, but you can it's one of those planners where you can put in your own, the number, right? Like, whatever the first is, whatever. So you could save this and use it in 3 years if you wanted, but you do have a lot about goal setting. So how do you want to break down for me? So I always find it interesting. Everyone's heard my take on goal setting, but I would love to hear, how do you do your goal setting? And then how do you break it down? And how does your planner help you achieve the goals? Whether or not you've actually achieved all of them, it doesn't matter. I want to know the strategy, because you're a planner and I like that.
Yeah. So, okay, my plan on goal setting and achieving, I feel like it's kind of unorthodox, if we can use that word. I basically just set a goal, and, there's all these things that are like, make sure it's a SMART goal, make sure it's, measurable and it's time sensitive and things like that. But the way that I see it is that you can set a goal for any time or period for your life. So, for example, your goal could be like, I want to save $10,000. And then that's your goal. But then how I would do it is I would work backwards from that. So I kind of just it's like starting the conclusion of an essay and then working backwards for all of your argument points. So I set the conclusion and the goal, and then I kind of work backwards and say, like, okay, if I want to achieve this goal by this time, what do I have to do every day or every week or every month until I get to that goal? And I kind of break it down. So, for me, if it's like saving $10,000 by the end of the year, then how much money do I have to save a month? How much money do I have to save a week? How much money do I have to save per day? And then I'll use my budget in my planner, and I will break down exactly how much I have to save for each month or week or day. And that will eventually lead up to my goal at the end of the year. And then, for things like financial goals, I think that automation is really important. And this is where I can kind of get into the financial part of my passion. But there's so many things that you can do with savings goals. Like, I know investing and, being more financially literate is definitely a trend that I see becoming more accessible to younger people. So I like to really push financial literacy. And there's really cool things that you can do where you just automate your savings. Like, you don't even have to go into your bank app and do anything. You can literally just put it on the app that every month you put $850 aside, which adds up to about $10,000 at the end of the year, and you just set it and you don't think about it. So yeah, it's all about kind of being efficient and just working backwards, and what can you do to make it easier for yourself, and what do you have to do every day to achieve your goals.
I love that you do that. I think, first of all, that's really cute and clever to compare it to writing an essay. I mean, I haven't written an essay in like 20 years, but I do vaguely remember being in university and writing those freaking essays. It's like they always say you need to have an outline first, and I would just start writing. And then I learned that's not the best way to do it. But I love that that conclusion, you're right, because you always want to conclude, right, all of your argument points at the end of the essay. And I love starting with the end in mind. I love that example of saving $10,000. I feel like it's so concrete and specific and clear, and it goes for anything. So if you want to, and like some people might get frustrated and say, well, yeah, that's really obvious, because if you want to save $10,000, like you said, it's $850 a month, then you break that down into the week, right? And then maybe you break that down into the day. And maybe when you break it down into the daily, do you know how much it is a day?
Oh, I can do the math right now.
Okay, you do that math right now. I love it. It usually seems very doable. And while you're doing that math,
it comes out to about $27.40 a day. So it's so achievable.
Crazy?
So achievable.
So crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, just don't buy that thing on Amazon. Just don't do the other thing, whatever it might be. Yeah. I love that. First of all, what I really love about that is, like I said, starting with the end in mind, but breaking it down. I think too many of us set a goal and that's it. They're like, I want to have $100,000 in sales this year. Yeah. Great. So what are you going to do to actually achieve it? And it feels more complicated because with money, it's very straightforward, right? You want $10,000, you break that down to $850, but it's the same concept. So if you want to earn $100,000 in sales, okay, maybe you break that down by month. Mm-hmm. So what is that by month? So what is that by? Let's say let's make it easier. Let's make it $120,000 for the year. So that's how much is that? 10,000 a month
per month?
Yeah. 10 times 12 is 100. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Financial Rebecca over here.
For designers.
God. So that's $10,000 a month. Okay. What can you do to get $10,000 a month in sales? Oh, okay. Do you have 2 consultations at this dollar? Do you land 1 new project at this dollar amount? And as you start to map it out like that over the months, you can see if it's feasible. Mm-hmm. Not that I don't want people to set like lofty stretch goals. I do, but there's something to be said about setting a goal that you might actually get close to achieving, because it's so invigorating. It's so inspiring, and it gives you the momentum to then set another goal and go after it. Yeah. Because like they say, you miss 100% of the shots you do not take. Yeah. Right? Like if you don't set the goal and you don't break it down and try, well, you're absolutely not going to get there unless it's completely luck based. Exactly. Or it's something you've been working on subconsciously for many years, which can also happen, right? You can subconsciously put it out into the world. You start to attract situations and opportunities that will get you closer and closer to it. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing I love, is that you break it down and you make that comparison to money. I think everyone could remind themselves of that, because I did actually a few years ago, I did this program where it was about goal setting, and it felt really annoying to break it down to the weekly tasks. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Like it's easy with money. It's like, boom, quick calculations. Let's throw it in my planner. Just a reminder, you need to save $27 today. What's $27 needs to go wherever. But when you're looking at bigger goals, especially when it comes to your business or even your life, maybe it's a health goal, breaking it into the month. Okay, like let's start with quarters. I always say start with quarters. Those are baby steps, right? Mm-hmm. Then you break it into the month. Then you break it down to the week, and it starts to feel like a lot of work. Yeah. What would you say to anyone who has like a goal that you want them to break it down in the way you suggested, but it feels overwhelming?
I mean, it really depends on the goal, and it depends on the person. Like, for me, I'm obsessed with planning everything down to the littlest detail. But even if you don't, you don't have to make this huge extravagant goal and then break it down to the day or the week or anything. But even if you just set a goal for a month and then you just do little things within the month to bring yourself towards that goal. And, you could just write things down every day about like how you feel and, how you feel about reaching your goals and things like that. And I think even just writing it down, like just the act of writing it down, I've seen a study that says it makes it 42% more likely to happen when you write it down. So even if you just do that like once a week or something, or, even focusing on the little wins every day, you don't necessarily have to make a big deal about it. Like for me, for example, with the 5 a.m. club, and I told you I hate mornings and I hated waking up, but every day this week, I woke up at 6:30 and I just kind of like applauded myself, and so just kind of looking back on my progress, like I don't have to write it down. I don't have to, focus on it every single day, but just getting up and staying up and knowing that I've accomplished something today that's pushing me towards my goal is more than enough to help me continue reaching my goals without being so like hyper focused on writing it down all the time.
Yeah. I love that because it can feel overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even for me, sometimes I think, oh God, like we've been doing all these strategy sessions in my company, and it's amazing how you're like, you think one day is going to be enough to like map it all out and break it all down. And you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh my God, I need like 5 more days.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Well, progress over perfection, right? So
Exactly.
Start with the baby steps to get you there. I love that. I love that you are really focused on financial literacy for, I don't think that just applies to a younger generation, though, I can say. I think it applies especially for women and women in their 40s and 50s and 60s, women who've maybe depended on their partner to be the one, who are now on their own or who've always just wanted to have financial literacy but felt like they didn't understand it. So I foresee some of that in your future. I foresee you learning and teaching a little bit more about that. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. I'm obsessed with it. It's become like my new passion almost. Is finance. Yeah.
That's so cool. It's not something that I've ever loved, but I do appreciate how these little things can make a big difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saving, investing, all of those. It's like
boring.
The $5.
Yeah.
Like don't get that Starbucks today, but then you have to put the money somewhere else. You can't just not get the Starbucks and then spend the money on something else.
No, you know what? My whole philosophy around that is that like money is so important and it really makes the world go around. And if you're not worried about money, then it genuinely makes your life so much easier. But I'm also that kind of person that's like, do not give up your Starbucks. Do not stop eating your avocado toast. Like you can have your cake and eat it too type of thing. So it's really just about being like more knowledgeable and intentional with how you spend your money instead of, being super frugal that you stop yourself from a Starbucks coffee every morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you've got to do what lights you up and what fills your heart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. What else? Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you feel would be really valuable to our listeners? As it comes to really like strategically planning out your year, because we're still early months of the year. And I think there's so much to be said. I mean, we didn't even talk about this, but in your planner, you do talk about budget. Do you want to maybe share a little bit more about how you guide people through the planner when it comes to money?
So with the budget pages is basically the way that I kind of broke it down was, I get a stable paycheck every 2 weeks and I have stable bills that I have to pay every 2 weeks. But before I started budgeting, I was just, getting my paycheck, going to the mall, blowing my paycheck, and then I had to pay a bill. And I was like, that's going to have to wait a couple days, And so I just hated feeling like that. And so I kind of just started writing down all of the things that I had to pay for in a month. And then I just started paying them as soon as I got my paycheck, so that whatever was left in my paycheck is, my money to spend on whatever I wanted. And so I just wanted to integrate that into the planners because, women, I feel like, should be more knowledgeable in their finances. And so having it in the planner is kind of a push for women, or men, whoever use the planner, to kind of just, take an extra second to look and think and be more mindful about their spending and their budgeting. And, it's just, it's much less stressful every day if you know where your money is going and when, and how much you have. It definitely alleviates a lot of stress. And I think it'll really help people.
Yeah, I like that you have like at the top of the page, you've got like the date and the income, and you can kind of put like, because maybe you have multiple income streams. Like for you, you have your steady paycheck. You probably have income from the sales from your planners. There might be something else. Maybe you're a busker on the weekends. I don't know. Right. And then you can add it up monthly and say, okay, this is how much I got this month or how much I get. And then writing down the expenses. Yeah. Some people do this in Excel and good for them. They're super organized, but some people tend to just kind of float from month to month, right? As you said, and just hope that there's enough to cover everything and let's start again. So it's helpful to understand. And it's so interesting, actually. I just had this conversation with my neighbor. We were talking about, so we just got a Samsung TV. And it's awesome because you can pick all this art, and it's art that we all know and love. Like I can put a Monet, like right now I think we have a Van Gogh on our TV, and it's just, it's lovely. But of course, there's a subscription service to having the art. It's not enough to just buy the TV, of course. And so there you are. It's another, I don't even know what it is, $15 a year or however much per month. And we had this conversation about like, he was saying, he's like, I don't even know, like, how much money am I spending a month in all these subscription services, right? Because it's like Apple iTunes, Amazon, I don't even know. There's probably a million other ones, like some, like a fitness app, and you add them all up, it could be pretty scary. So probably most people don't do that. So I can almost see like this could be a great opportunity, like add in all those little itty bitty costs. Not only do you see, at the end of the month, if you're net, like, are you net positive, net neutral? Are you in the red, as I say? But also you can kind of evaluate those expenses, like some expenses like rent, a mortgage, right? Like you need, though you can't, your electricity bill, water, all that has to happen. But oftentimes there's expenses that we can cut to save cost. But if you don't look at it, you're not going to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's definitely like these budgeting pages are more of a way for people to become aware of their spending and the things that they pay for. And I think just once you become more aware of these things, then you can start to make changes and, set goals for yourself or your finances. Yeah. So it's all about just being aware and being knowledgeable.
Yeah, I can tell you for my purposes, because it's a bit different. I'm a business owner. I envision using this planner, and I don't know, I'll have to report back to you and see, but just using it for the coaching side of my business. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of its own business. And eventually I'll probably do something for my Airbnb business, but where I can just look at what revenue am I getting from any courses? What are the expenses? Because there's quite a bit of expenses, or like from the podcast, right? If we have sponsorships, and then expenses are pretty high when it comes to an online business, because there's all this software that we're using. It's all subscription based. And just to kind of get a really clear sense, because it's a smaller business, it almost feels a little bit more tangible. The design business to me is like this big beast that we use an accounting program for, and it'll just stay in there. But that's why I think I might use this. I'm thinking out loud here. I like empty, clean pages. I can't wait till I get colorful pens.
It's so fun. I recommend Midliner. If you haven't heard of them, they're so good.
Are they the ones? No, you know what my favorite ones are right now. This is a total. Oh, where is it? Hold on. I have to share this.
Yeah, I want to see this.
So not relevant to people listening to this podcast. They're like, who cares what kind of pen Rebecca's using? But my favorite ones right now, they're not new. They've been around a long time. Oh, Uniball. They're like fine. What's the word? They're not a ballpoint pen. No, are they? No, they're like a fine point liquid pens. Yeah. And I get the colored all. Yeah, no, I don't know. They're like metal tips, but the liquid comes out. And they're made in Japan, something that's not made in China. Look at that. And they come in multicolors. So I will color code things. Anyways, you can buy a pack. This is not an ad. But Uniball, if you want to sponsor me, I'm always open. Yeah, totally. Okay. Well, before we end our time together, I always ask my guest if there is any little like nugget of wisdom that you would like to share with the audience.
I want to say maybe, okay, you know, from recent personal events, I want to say the advice that I can give to people is just, these goals that you set for yourself and these passions that you have, like they're there for a reason and you should follow them and you should, put all your effort into what you love and the universe will give that back to you tenfold.
I love that advice. I'm with you 100%. We only have so much time here in our flesh on this planet. Do what you love. I'm reading a really great book right now. It's called Big Magic. It's by the author of Eat, Pray, Love. And she's a writer and she talks about writing and she talks about the artist in us and being creative. And it really is inspirational to remind us to allow ourselves and our creative expression to come out and to enjoy it. And whether or not we make a living from being creative and to not let that hold us back from doing the creative things that we love. So yeah, that's interesting you say that because it's totally on my mind right now. It's just follow your passions. And if you can kind of plan things out a little bit, that'll help you get further along, right?
Exactly. It'll help you reach your goals.
Yeah, I love that. I love this. Thank you so much for being a guest today, Rhea. It's so refreshing to talk to someone who's so youthful and already has this entrepreneurial endeavor and this side hustle. It's so exciting. I can't wait to watch your company grow. Do you want to let everybody know who's listening where they can find you and where they can find your planner?
Yeah, so they can find my planner and all of my planning products at www.rheaclaire.com. And you can also find me on Instagram or TikTok, which will be up and running soon. I'm hiring a Gen Z to run that for me.
Look at you.
Yeah. So all of these accounts are at Rhea Claire Lifestyle.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And of course, we will link that in the show notes. So if anybody wants to just click there, you can check out the beautiful planner and everything, all Rhea. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Isn't she lovely? Oh my goodness. What a sweetheart. I love what she's doing. And honestly, the side hustle of hers that she's just done all on her own in the last not even year, I don't think. I mean, it's awesome. It's so inspirational. It makes me think like, I've had ideas for product that I want to sell that are sustainable and healthy and will really make a difference in the world. Like, hey, heck, I could probably do that too. I mean, I got a few things on the burner, but or a few pots in the pan in the kitchen. Guys, why can I not get expressions? Anyways, that was lovely. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Rhea and you have some great takeaways. Go check out her website. When we stopped recording, I said to her, girl, you got to do like a financial planner. Like, you're really passionate about this. And she's like, oh, I already have one. You can buy it. I'm like, you should have mentioned that. So I'm mentioning that here. Go check out her website, rheaclairelifestyle.com or rheaclaire.com. Oh my goodness, I already forgot. It's in the show notes. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode and I'll see you soon.